Mike, what day is it, Mike? Well, it is Wednesday, November 6th, and we're looking at 9:29 in the morning here in Western Iowa. I hope you're having a great day so far. I was up till 3 in the morning, so the red hat I usually wear? That could be why. Anyway, let's go through the forecast because there's a ton going on, and our low pressure, our trough, is just going to drop into New Mexico and just sit there for a couple days, bringing lots of crazy weather to Texas, New Mexico, Colorado mainly. But I want to start with the tropics because we want to know what's going to happen with Rafael. And it looks like Rafael, this is the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Rafael moving across Cuba today as a major hurricane and then emerging into the Gulf and moving away from all land, kind of moving into the middle of the Gulf of Mexico as a hurricane and then weakening into a tropical storm by this weekend, even through the weekend. So we'll see. Right now, not a threat to anyone. I should amend that a little bit, obviously Cuba. And then, of course, the Keys of Florida, looking at a possibility of some severe weather as Rafael gets close enough. Here are the hazards across the country this morning, and there you go, tropical storm warnings for the Florida Keys from Rafael getting close enough to cause some problems there. Flood watches too. Excuse me. Flood watches too for Georgia into South Carolina, all the way up there into Connecticut and Massachusetts. We're looking at red flag warnings with some wind issues. It was really foggy this morning in western Iowa, and our dense fog advisory expires in a half hour, but the sun is out now. So fog breaking up Iowa into Minnesota, South Dakota, Nebraska. And then I'm going to jump over to the West Coast, and then we'll concentrate on our storm in the Rockies. So for California, looking at red flag warnings along the coast, a little bit of a freeze watch, a little sliver there. Southern California wind advisories, so be advised, and also some freeze warnings getting into western Arizona even and parts of Nevada and California. And then there's a little bit of a freeze watch for extreme southwestern Utah. All right, for the northern Rockies, or the mountains of southern Montana and northern Wyoming, we're looking at winter storm watches, winter storm warnings here. Colorado, winter storm watches, winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, and a big part of New Mexico, winter storm warnings here, and our big storm for this weekend. So that brings us to our weather spotlight. Well, welcome to Denver, Rocky Mountain High. The snow forecast being updated for more snow further north into Denver. So they've revised this. Likely a sharp gradient though, roughly over Denver and I-76. So areas south and west of Denver metro to Castle Rock to Lyman and Akron will have the highest impacts, blah, blah, blah. And so still a lot of uncertainty for Thursday and Friday's potential heavy snow. But right now, Lyman 6 to 14, Castle Rock 6 to 14, Denver itself 2 to 7. And again, these amounts will be in flux. 2 to 6 for Boulder. You see the dotted yellow line. That's where raised snow totals in those areas. So those where the snow totals have been revised upward. So just a lot of snow for Denver and eastern Colorado and into the mountains and more. And we'll go over that now as we take a look at the GFS because even this morning it's already snowing in Colorado back into Arizona and New Mexico. Light snow further to the north, even getting into the Dakotas. And then our line of storms in the Ohio Valley diminishing a little bit as we get through the morning. Some thunderstorms down there in Florida. And you see our trough just diving into the southern Rockies here and setting up shop through the weekend, really. And we see snow increasing in New Mexico and the mountains, but also into the plains. And we see some heavy rainfall. This is why we had that flash flood watch or just the flood watch for parts of Georgia into South Carolina. Some heavy rain there as we go through the day. This gets us into midnight tonight and then early tomorrow, and you can see it just snowing like crazy. New Mexico into Colorado, and the rain is busting out now into Texas. And then at the very south here, we see Rafael starting to poke his head through as he's moved across Cuba, now moving into the Gulf. And you just see this low sitting over New Mexico, bringing rain, thunderstorms, heavy rain, severe weather for Texas, snow back into the mountains, even southeastern Colorado, some heavy snow here. This gets us into early Friday. And as we get into Friday, we start to see this low open up a little bit, and it's going to move northward as Rafael just sits here in the Gulf of Mexico. And then there that low is taken off. This gets us to midnight Friday, and taking with it a lot of rain showers ahead of it, north and east, with snow on the backside into Colorado and New Mexico. And as it moves northward, we'll see showers and thunderstorms moving into Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, back into Arkansas, Tennessee, and even parts of Mississippi, Alabama. And some rain for me this weekend as we get into Saturday here. We'll take it. We've had some good rains lately, so it's been nice, which is what you want before the ground freezes up. Although as warm as it's been and is forecasting to be, I don't know how frozen the ground's going to be. Anyway, we do see some showers moving in through, into Illinois, let's say, also parts of Kentucky, back towards Louisiana. This gets us into Saturday, and we see another storm for the Pacific Northwest moving in. Our low lifts northward and kind of falls apart or weakens, I would say. Still some showers for Nebraska, Iowa, up into the Dakotas, Minnesota, heavier rain for Indiana into Kentucky and Tennessee, and Rafael close enough to Louisiana to have some of those effects felt. And that low making slow progress as we get into Sunday now, up into the Great Lakes. Heaviest rain down into Kentucky. Rafael moving closer while weakening to Louisiana, but no big effects from Rafael, at least according to this run from the GFS. We see more of those rain showers moving into the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, and eastward now as we get into late Sunday. So that gets us through the weekend. You know, I was not gonna move my cursor up here to make it jump like that, and I did it again. I just don't pay attention. Anyway, all right. So those rain showers move out. This is Monday now, and then we see our next storm moving into the Pacific Northwest. Rafael dissolves basically as we get into next week. This gets us to Wednesday. Another storm for the Pacific Northwest. Really strong storm up here approaching James Bay in Canada. Look at all that wind, snow up here in Hudson's Bay. Rain and wind getting down into the Great Lakes, and a line of storms with a cold front moving into the Ohio Valley. This is Thursday, really Wednesday night at midnight. And you see some of this cold air now on the backside moving into the northern plains, upper Midwest, and into the Great Lakes. That cooler air is going to move mostly east. So a big cool off in the Great Lakes, moving into the East Coast by Thursday. Another storm for the Pacific Northwest, and just riding along taking the northern route. So the snowpack building in Canada, what that could do is if we get more snowpack in Canada, if that starts to build, then later as we get into winter, that could help with cold air intrusions for the lower 48. Now, as we get through next weekend, again, another Canadian storm, snow up there, rain though for the Great Lakes all the way down into Texas with some cold air moving into the upper Midwest and then the Great Lakes and moving eastward. So we're getting shots of cold air now for the Great Lakes and east, not making it too far south as we go through the next weekend. And then this is all kind of speculation, and we'll just take another look. Looks like a snowstorm here a week before Thanksgiving, moving into the northern plains. And, again, this is our blizzard we've been showing the last few days. So it could be blizzard conditions for the Dakotas into Minnesota, again, a week before Thanksgiving. And this time the cold air does get further south, probably all the way into Texas, as we get, to the third week of this month. All right, let's take a look at our forecast through the weekend. Here's your surface for today. Just the massive amounts of snow for New Mexico, Colorado, lighter snow, Wyoming up into Montana. Your flooding chances for Georgia and South Carolina that we showed you on the GFS. And there's Rafael moving into Cuba. And then for our severe weather, our slight risk for the Florida Keys, our marginal risk for southern Florida. And yes, there is a small tornado chance with that. The Keys with the best chance at 5%. The rest of the lower 48 pretty quiet. Temperature anomalies with that low dropping into the Four Corners and then into New Mexico and Colorado. That's where the coldest air will be. Ahead of it east, that's where the warmest air will be, especially northeast. Highs today in the northeast in the 70s. Still for Florida. I'm sorry, for New York and Pennsylvania. I mean, they're just enjoying that. Connecticut, Massachusetts, 70s. 80s when you get down to mid-Atlantic into the southeast. Just kind of crazy. 50s here in Iowa, about average for us. In fact, yes, exactly average for us. And then 40s when you get back in the Dakotas, but cold, the coldest air there in the Rockies with our storm system. Tomorrow morning's lows. We're starting to see some single digits here in Wyoming and Colorado. Especially with our snowstorm, teens in eastern Oregon, single digits or barely double digits in Nevada. So that's where it's cold out west, warmest southeast. Tomorrow, our storm system, winter storm really, for New Mexico, Colorado is still sitting here and doing its thing, dumping a lot of snow. So yeah, if you like to snow, like in Taos, or the Colorado, Aspen, whatever. Ski season definitely starting after this storm, if it hasn't already. Now, on the Texas side, for tomorrow, we're looking at heavy rainfall from Lubbock up through Amarillo, almost to Oklahoma City. And our severe storms possible, just a little pocket here. We'll zoom in on that here. Well, I'm going to do the heavy rain first. Georgia, South Carolina, Rafael, again, maybe adding some moisture to the southeast, but not hurting anybody out there, which is good news. All right, severe weather tomorrow. And so our marginal risk is a lot of Texas, south of Lubbock, Midland, Odessa are included, just barely Fort Worth, down to San Antonio. That's our marginal risk. And then our slight risk, the more serious risk, would say near Abilene to towards Del Rio, but not quite. It's a pretty small area, all things considered. And that's where our 2% tornado risk is there in Texas. Tomorrow's anomalous temperatures, that cold pocket around the low around New Mexico. And then the warm stuff, mid-Atlantic, is where it'll be warmest, and up in Canada too. Highs tomorrow, 54 for Lubbock, 48 Amarillo, and then 30s as you get back to where the snow is in New Mexico and Colorado. But still looking at some 80s, for eastern Texas into Louisiana, the southeast, 70s as you head up the coast. Cooler now for the northeast as we see more 60s and then 50s as you head north into the northeast. 40s and 50s for the Great Lakes and upper Midwest. Precipitation for the next 2 days. As you can imagine, with our big low that isn't going anywhere for a couple days, this is where our biggest precipitation amounts will be. For Texas, along the Red River, up to a couple inches, maybe 2.5 here. Same for back into New Mexico, Colorado, 2.5, 3 inches liquid equivalent. We'll show you the snow amounts here in a second. But a big pocket for Georgia into South Carolina, very heavy rainfall, 4-5 inches of rain for some here. So watch out for that. Here's your snow. Snow amounts for New Mexico, even into the plains, we're talking 3 feet. 3 feet. Up into Colorado as well. You get into Denver and into the the plains of eastern Colorado, still looking at 20 inches, 16 to 20 inches for some. So just a massive snowstorm here. Great news if you like to ski. Great news for the ski resorts. Good for the economy. And us snow lovers, even though I can't get there, I know some of the storm chasers, Storm Runner Media, if you watch them, they're going to chase the snow the next couple days. So I'm looking forward to tuning in for some of that. It's just going to be purty. We can live vicariously through others. Here's Friday. Lingering heavy snow, New Mexico, Colorado. The heavy rain moves into Oklahoma, Kansas. Scattered storms through much of the southern plains into the southeast now and into the Midwest. And then our next storm system for the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures on Friday still cold in New Mexico and into West Texas and into Colorado, even lingering back towards Arizona. So that's the pocket of the coldest there. Warmest above average would be southeast to mid-Atlantic and also up in the northern plains, teens above average. That looks like this with temperatures. Teens above average for this time of year is around 60 for eastern Montana. 50s for the Dakotas into Minnesota, here in Iowa, and into the Great Lakes. Still hanging on to some 70s near 80 for the southeast, and low 80s for Florida into eastern Texas. But still upper 50s, Lubbock, into the 40s as you head into New Mexico, even some 30s. And then for the West Coast, 50s Willamette Valley. Again, this is for Friday. And, relatively cool, I guess, for the desert Southwest. 60s and 70s here. As we get into the weekend, Saturday warms up a little bit for the Four Corners. Warms up a little bit for the Southeast. So I'm slightly warmer most areas on Saturday. And then on Sunday, even a little warmer as we're starting to approach 60 for parts of Nebraska. So that's a look through the weekend for you. And our 8 to 14 day temperature outlooks looks like this. We're going to keep it below average for the west and above average for the east. This weather pattern just kind of locked in. This gets us through November 13th through the 19th. Alaska pretty much near average to above average for most of the state. Hawaii looks like much above average. And the Aleutian Islands out there, which are not located below Alaska, but you get the idea. They had to fit it on here. Above average temperatures. Precipitation looking good. Hawaii above average. Alaska above average. Aleutian Islands above average. Most of the country above average precipitation, which I think for most is good news. Some don't really need it. All right. That's your forecast through the weekend. So here we are Wednesday, just anticipating a big snowstorm for Colorado and New Mexico with some heavy rain and severe weather for parts of Georgia, South Carolina, and then getting into Texas, Oklahoma, and eventually Kansas. So that'll do it for me this morning. I really appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll do it again tomorrow morning right here on the Weather Mic.